Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the 6 o'clock club. A big shout out to Ian, or rather, I should say a leprechaun. Sorry, I will keep your handles rather than your names. Welcome. 6 o'clock club. I'm Andy from Twisted Narrative, and we have Kristian here joining me Monday to Wednesday. Say hello,
Yes.
Kristian. I'm all tangled up.
Hello, everybody. I am Kristian from my house, and I am very much looking forward to some of the topics we've got to cover tonight.
Yeah, indeed. And it's going to be a slightly shorter one anyway, so please enjoy. Big shout out to Elsa as well. Thank you very much for joining us live. If you are in chat, shout out. Let me give you name checks and the like. So, first and foremost, we'll do what we normally do. We'll talk about last night's game, and then we'll talk about tonight's game. We'll talk about what I've been doing today on YouTube, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. It's a learning curve for me, and what is going to happen sort of both this week and next week as well. So, first of all, last night's game. Last night's game, Feng Shui. Um, Kristian was playing. We had Rachel and we had Natasha as well. I enjoyed it. It went uh, exactly as I planned it really. So no real kind of oh my god it kind of went off the rails or the like. But first and foremost, I am interested in what Kristian's view is of the game.
It was very good. For anyone that thinks, oh, maybe I'd like to play Feng Shui in the future, I strongly recommend it. One of the little twists that came along in the game was from the very start. Andy asked, "Who's driving the car?" Because we were starting in media res. We had this big fire demon following us, and then I said it was me, and he privately sent me a little blurb to read out in character, which was great, which was a lot of fun to sort of, as it's really cinematic, to have this moment of talking to the camera to introduce the game myself. So that was a lot of fun, but it could have been pretty much anyone in the party to have done that, to take words and make them their own. So yeah, it was fun to have this little sort of cold open, as it were, to fight against this monster for a little bit. The pacing was really good on that as well, and it was good to kind of reintroduce my character and Rachel's character and the other character Jester. I've just got my notes here as well, and there were so many interesting characters. There was Old Man, there was big the big cheese, there was Apiary, with pictures to go with all of them, which I always like, and I always find that quite fun. And there was quite a fun climax as well, where pretty much anything's possible in Feng Shui. And I mean, we were in this fight in a clock tower, and um, Jericho, played by Rachel, who's a bit of a gun nut, takes over a helicopter, just sort of jumps over to it and takes over the helicopter in true cinematic style. My character managed to tie a rope around this big Doctor Octopus-like creature, and because the bell tower is starting to be destroyed, kick the bell and the bell falls down, and it all chaos ensues. And it was really cinematic and really fun. And if you can think it would be cool if I did this, that's kind of how you play your character. And you can play optimally, suboptimally, but it doesn't really matter. You play for fun, and everything you do is fun. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I had a blast. It was quite good fun doing that introduction. I was, a little bit nervous because it's the first time that I've done something like that. Um, but a great sort of opening scene. Um, I had to remind, I think, the players that you're playing Feng Shui because it is a completely different game to most of the other role-playing games out of there. you you're not just like powerful characters like in 50 Dungeons and Dragons, where you are, especially at higher levels, incredibly capable. No, you are the stars of the movie that you're in, and you, it's really important that the players kind of take that on board. It was like your character against the fire demon is right. Okay, the tires are burnt out. They've all melted. I'm gonna drive it away. And again, it was like, I mean, you could do that, but don't
Yeah.
forget you are the star of the show. Perhaps you want to use it as an improvised weapon, and it's like, oh,
Yes.
okay then. Um,
Yeah.
it's very much a case of embrace the madness. As I feel, this is the way that I run it anyway. I feel the style of the game is not just cooperative, but I am 100% on the player's side to make their fun magnified and
Yeah.
larger than life, rather than rather than to kind of uh, remove that kind of sense away from you. Natasha loved it, I have to say. She contacted me earlier today. She loved it so much she went out and brought the book. So
Oh, that's very good.
you know,
That's a good sign. That's always a good sign.
yeah. No, absolutely. So it was a blast.
Well, it sounded like you enjoyed it as well, which
Yeah,
is, you were, and that's when a table really comes together, when you're doing things, and you did feel like you were on our side, and you did feel like you were enjoying the nonsense that we were coming up with and trying.
yeah. I mean, to me, it's almost like being a director of a movie,
Yeah.
and you kind of want the actors to do really well. You want them to perform and do these awesome things, as opposed to being. And the idea is to put things in your way, obviously, but it's kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, these are terrible things, but you're capable of doing it. Put on a show. So it was very good fun, and of course you got attacked by the Quack Squad.
The
Uh,
Quack Squad.
the Quack
Yes.
Squad.
Yes, it was a yes, exactly what you think it is. A bunch of not quite Howard the Ducks, more a bit more Darkwing Ducks, but
Yeah,
yes, they came in, and it does sort of make plot sense with the group in question that we were
absolutely.
going up against, but yes, it was yeah.
I mean, yeah. Had to put the Ascended in for that reason and that reason alone, really. So yeah, it was fantastic. I definitely recommend the system out there. I thought also we managed to handle the combat better this time. It flowed a little bit
Yeah,
easier than
yes,
previously.
it did. Yes,
So I think that's just a degree of familiarity with the rules as well, and the understanding that you can do this crazy stuff.
very much
Um,
so. Very much so.
so yeah, so very good. I don't know when the next one is, but I'm very keen to do that. Then we'll rapidly come on to Fortunes Untold, which is our fifth edition game going on later tonight. We've got James, Felicity, we've got Adrian and Roz, and a big shout out to Roz because it is their birthday
Oh,
today.
happy birthday.
So I believe anyway. And I can't believe it's been a year since their last birthday because it just seems like yesterday, which means the campaign has been going for at least a year now, which is insane. It's fifth edition Dungeons and Dragons homebrew, but set in Faerun. Very much looking forward to it. It's a very creative party that are very good at using the tools that they've got to do interesting things rather than the standard use of magic. Particularly, James is a great caster, a great player, and is very creative with the way that he uses his spells. Elsa says, "Do you think role plays are like board games? First one is a bit slow to learn the rules." Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
And it's. I think with role playing as well, it's also its themes. You could play Call of Cthulhu and you could play it completely wrong. Not that there's a wrong or right way, but the concept fundamentally in Call of Cthulhu is you are normal people against an eldritch threat, and you will lose your sanity or die. It is unlikely it's going to be a happy ending, and you're going to be very disappointed if you're a player that thinks, well, this is like some supernatural, action movie where I'm going to win through. When the monster turns up and does like 10d6 damage, and
Yeah.
you've got like 12 hit points, and so it's very important to have the right idea about what the game's trying to do.
Yeah, it helps with the system as well. Like
Yeah, yeah.
if it's a very, if it's like Shadowrun, I mean, I don't think I've ever run that one right. But as Leprechaun just said in the chat, Morkborg wasn't like that.
Hmm.
Morkborg was very quick, but Morkborg I think is quite rules light in that respect.
Yeah.
Your character sheet fits on one page,
Hmm.
and there's not a lot on it. It's
Yeah.
just roll a d20 and hope for the best. And same with Feng Shui actually. For Feng Shui, the combat got a bit bogged down in the very first time we played it. But future sort of other actions you take, it's a lot easier. There's no looking things up, and it doesn't. Everything's kind of on the DM screen.
Yeah.
I think, and it makes life a little easier.
And I mean the fundamental theme of Feng Shui is cinematic action as well.
Yeah,
So if you're in the right mindset for that, it's like, and I think this goes for all role playing games. You can kind of put the rules to one side and the rule of cool and all of that if you've got that kind of GM. But Feng Shui encourages it, and it's very much like, I would like to do this. Well, that
yeah,
sounds really cool. Just go and do it then. And it's that cooperative storytelling that it definitely sort of encourages. As I said, I felt more like a director of a movie rather than a GM, and just ensuring that there were there was action sequences for the characters to interact with, rather than putting hard problems in front of them, really. Um, so yeah, but very much looking forward to Fortunes Untold. Great group of players, fifth edition D&D. That is kicking off at 7 o'clock. Um, I'm speeding through stuff because I know that it's a slightly shorter one. Some of our people in chat are gonna have to go. What is the GM in it called? I have absolutely no idea.
Andy,
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I've long shed the skin of, am I a GM or DM or a storyteller or a keeper? I'm just the guy that talks until the players talk back.
professional ragamuffin.
Yeah, well, that suits me. I did say I was very much a Captain Dove, or Captain Dove bases himself on me, or the other way around. I'm not sure which one it
Unprofessional
was.
scoundrel.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, but there probably is a name for it. But check out the system; it's very, very cool. So I've done a few things on YouTube today that I'd like to update you with. Hey, Cara, feels like a zookeeper at times. Now, I'm not allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to say that my beautiful, perfectly formed players and groups are like herding cats. Um, that would be inappropriate. I'll let you make up your own minds. YouTube, YouTube. If everybody looks down in the video, I don't know whether it's in the live video, so I could be lying. There should be in the right-hand bottom corner a little YouTube icon, and if you hover your mouse over that, um, it should bring up a subscribe button now. You probably all subscribed already, and I really appreciate that. The reason why I'm telling you is that is tech that I actually did today. Tech things.
Wow.
I made things work. It's okay. Everybody in chat is probably going to tell me it's not working, but I thought I mentioned that.
No, I've checked it out. It is working. Well, at least
Yay!
in true programmer fashion works on my machine.
That's okay. I'm very pleased with myself. Gave myself a gold star. I also uploaded quite a few very, very short videos today as well. Feel free to sort of check it out. Cheers, Leprechaun. Um, um, I've called them elevator pitches, and the idea. Thank you, Elsa. I've called them elevator pitches. These videos, they're kind of 30 seconds or less, and it's literally me giving a pitch for a game I would like to run. I mean, the reality is some of these games I've already run, but it's kind of ideas. We were talking about how I get inspiration for working out or creating games, and titles are one of them. So these elevator pitches are the way that I do it in my own mind. I'm not happy with them. I had Fancy Grounds up, but the writing is quite blurred on the writing. So I like the concept, and I'll be really happy with your feedbacks. But I don't like the presentation on the screen at the moment. I don't know whether I need to kind of set my resolutions differently for Fancy Grounds. Um,
Increase the UI scale, I guess,
yeah,
because I
some
find that certainly on my machine, the scale is really small until I have to change it because unless I want to sit that close to the screen.
yeah. So I don't know. I also might for the elevator pitches just do me going, hey, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition elevator pitch. This is the Belly Busters, and kind of just do it as me talking to screen because it is a couple of lines, and you don't really need. The reason why I put the text there is so that people can go back to it and kind of sort of read the words. But for that, oops, yep, that and another image equal as well. Leprechaun, you said words. I have no idea what you mean, but thank you.
Thank you for saying
Yeah,
words.
um,
God, he's grateful, isn't he? He's really grateful.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. So I'm interested in what you think to those. The idea really is that we then do spin-off videos um, from them, where I've called it, if you look in the description, 6 in 30, which is me doing a 30-minute video of 6 encounters that come under that banner, that elevator pitch, to be inspiration for GMs, or even if you haven't got the prep time to go, all right, that's 6 linked encounters, that's an evening session, great, I'll lift that up and I can use that straight away. So that is what I've been working on today on Fantasy Grounds and on YouTube. And as a spin-off, we might be doing um, sort of homebrew magic items and homebrew sort of NPCs and creatures as well, as very short videos. I don't know if that is something will be of interest to you, and I'm happy to reach out to the community to see whether you think that's a good idea or not. It doesn't appear to me that it's being done at the moment on YouTube, and there might be a reason for that in the fact that nobody wants to see it, or it might be a little bit of a gap in the market, and you
You
know,
could go viral.
I could go viral. Unlikely. I mean, I'll probably go viral, but for all of the wrong reasons. Uh, a few cans of Red Bull, and who knows? Who knows? Um, okay, moving rapidly on. Tomorrow we will be missing Kristian. Boo, a sad face. But on a positive note, we will be joined by Matt, hopefully. Matt, who is
Yeah.
helping me. Well, we're co-writing um, things that we're publishing. Um, so Matt will be joining us. It'll be a bit of a meet and greet. We'll be talking about some of the things we're looking at publishing, um, and about the game tonight, the game tomorrow night, and all of the usual 6 o'clock club type things. Um, that leads us on to next Wednesday, a date for your diaries. Next Wednesday, hopefully Kristian will be with us again because it's Monday to Wednesday, but we'll also be joined by Charlie Menzies, who's the sort of lead writer and chief design in Shiver.
Very
Shiver,
exciting.
yeah, Shiver is an award-winning. It's won awards role-play game. Um, it's leaning towards horror, but it's cinematic horror. If you think John Carpenter movies, The Thing and the like,
That's
um,
fine. I'm a wimp.
yeah. But also they are. bringing out supplement after supplement for things like box office, so they kind of got rules for like Jurassic Park-esque.
Very nice.
It's fascinating, really. Very excited. So Charlie is joining us. We'll get to learn all about Shiva and how they put it together. But at 7 o'clock this time next week, well, in 40 minutes, he's volunteered to do an actual play for us. So he'll be running a game of Shiva, and I will be playing. It should be live on a stream, and you get to see me. You get to see me as a player. So I'm very, very excited about that. I'm excited to see how Shiva actually plays properly, and yeah, it's going to be interesting times. So set your date for your diaries because you will get to see me actually play in Shiva.
Exciting.
I think that's all the news and updates and everything else. Really would very much appreciate your feedbacks and your comments on everything that we've said so far. But we're going to now come to a welcome to my table sort of section of it, where we talk about what I do, what Kristian perhaps does as GMs and as players. And we reached out to our Discord community earlier. Leprechaun and Elsa gave us some very good ideas. We've cherry picked one of them, which is something that we can easily cover tonight in the short time that we've got, which is taking good notes, both as a player and as a GM. I feel like I've talked enough for the moment, so I know that Kristian has got some thoughts on this, and I'm going to pass across. He's gone. I'm talking. Oh, he's back. That's okay.
I was getting my notes. I should have prepped. I really should have prepped for this instead of spending ages just.
No. 6 o'clock club is how we run games. Zero prep.
Zero notes.
There you go. That's the answer to your question. Yes. Thank you very much. We will see you tomorrow. Over to you, Kristian.
Well, I mean, I would say as a player and as a GM, I follow the same idea with taking notes. So for prep work, I always use the tools available to me in Roll20. So I'll have, because that's as I just said in the chat, that's my VTD of choice. I've got a player that sometimes plays on an iPad on satellite internet, and none of the other VTDs I've found so far can actually work with it. What I do is I make sure that I've got all my prep work done so that I know I've got things I need to say and everything like that. And that helps me when I'm actually taking notes as a GM to make sure I'm not spending ages writing notes down. I don't have as much work to do, because sometimes I don't have any work to do because I follow the notes. Nothing's gone off track. But I always make sure I have my notebook, and I have a notebook for every campaign I'm in. I love a good notebook. I love stationery. So whenever I do a new thing, I get a new notebook, and my notes are sometimes half written, sometimes completely written. And this is just me as a GM. So I'll have reminders to myself. So and I'll always put the date for the session as well. So in my last session that I ran, I made some notes. Now I'm not going to reveal all of them because they're a little rude at times, because that's the group of players I have. But yeah, so last session everything followed what was supposed to follow. So all I ended up writing down was there's going to be a bard off, because there's going to be a battle of the bards, and I wrote the name of one of the bards. I'm not going to put the name anywhere because it is very rude. But I'll tell Andy later. But that bard is a mime, and quite often it's the things I'm taking note of as a GM are the things where I varied from my notes, or things that I've thought up on the fly, or things that the players have said. So a couple of weeks back, I sometimes put down what the characters are doing at any one time. But here's one, like within a year, the orcs are going to war. Valenus and actors to find the locket. Franz is messing up the play. And again, these are things that are happening that I want to remember for later. But then as a player, and I write those notes generally in short form. Everything's a bullet point. It's always bullet pointed. I very rarely write long sentences. And as a player, I do exactly the same thing. I have bullet pointed lists of things that have happened, and on their own, because they're all reminders, and on their own they don't always make much sense. But every game I play in, the reason my notes work for me anyway is that once I've had a session, the next morning I'll normally read my notes and try and get it in my head again. And I know Rachel plays in one of my games, and so on Sunday mornings as we go for coffee, I'll be talking to Rachel about the game, and I'll say, "Well, this is what happened. This is the things the party missed," and I obviously Rachel does get to see behind the curtain in that respect because it for me it works really well to have a sounding board to say these are all the things that could have happened, these are the things that didn't happen, these are the things I prepped, these are the things that are going on. And actually on Saturday morning when we go for coffee, because I run my game on a Saturday night, I do the same thing, and we'll refresh ourselves about what happened last time. We'll have a chat about it. So I'm quite lucky in that respect that I've got someone to talk to about my games that can remember what happened as well. And then in my prep session, which I always do leading up to the game, normally the last half an hour is just reading my notes and making sure I've got everything that happened last time in my head so I could run the game with keeping all the necessary information in there. And as a player, I do exactly the same thing. Half an hour before I start a game, I'll be in my office and I'll be reading my notes so that when Andy asks who wants to give the update, I've actually normally taken my notes from last time and written a new bullet point list at the start of my new session to say, this is what's happened. And actually, I've got my Eberron book here, which is now nearly full, which means we've been going for quite a while. So some sort of examples of things that I wrote from the last session. So we were at this party, and I actually wrote down who the people that were pointed out were. So, I noted that we asked the character Romero about his powers. He said that he was a jinx or a fluke. And I wrote, normally if there are little sentences that a character will say, I'll write those things down. But yeah, I just noted kind of the important bits. But again, it's always short quotes, bullet point lists, because for me that works really well. But it's the reinforcing, it's the review and the going over that really helps me. Otherwise, the notes are completely useless.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's pretty much what I do as well. Until next week, I won't have played a game for a very long time. In fact, probably one of the last games I played was your game, Kristian. Seriously.
Wow, and that finished in 2015.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not kind of worries me. I really enjoy running games. I don't dislike playing games. It's very cool. But I do have this problem, which I'm going to find very interesting next week, is that as a GM, you have to be on the ball and kind of filling time. As a player, I like to sort of kick back and give the opportunity for other players to play, basically, pretty much as I do as a sort of GM, really. So it's going to be an interesting one. But yeah, so I can only really speak as keeping notes as a GM. And there's very few notes I keep because everything is pre-prepared already. So in terms of running the game, I have all of the information already pre-written. But I do exactly what you do for a session. I transfer all of those points into sort of bullet points, so I can reference back to the notes that I've pre-prepped for the game fairly rapidly. But I kind of, having read them over and over again, I kind of know that, and the bullet points are a reminder to take me there.
Do you use a filing system as well?
Yes, yeah.
And I ask because when I see the things you share, I see like A6, A5. I
Yeah,
see
yeah,
like a letter and number on the side, and
yeah,
I was always wondering what
yeah.
if that was kind of a system.
Yeah, yeah. So, absolutely. Sort of A1 in terms of the games are on for a 3 hour session. I tend to look at 6 encounters.
Right.
Um, Now, those encounters can be something fairly rapidly, a conversation to be had or whatever, or they could be a combat encounter that could take, easily an hour and fifth ed or even longer. But normally six encounters, and they don't all necessarily need to happen, and they don't all need to happen in the order that you've listed
Yeah.
them. But it's six things that are probably going to happen during this game. So we'll take Feng Shui, like last night. There was the original encounter with the
Yeah.
fire demon. There was going to the dojo to see Old Man. There was them across to the Big
Big
Cheese.
cheese.
As you came out of there, you encountered the Man with Many
Goes to the other two.
Faces.
Yeah.
Then you went to Happy Harry's.
Yeah.
Then there was basically two encounters in the tower. There was getting to the tower, meeting Cat and Mouse
Yeah.
that were fighting, and then there was the arrival of the bad guys.
Yeah.
So there's a flow. You could have technically encountered the Man with Many Faces before you saw the Big Cheese, or you could have gone to,
Yeah.
you know, if you had more of a social group. People with connections, networks, resources as a
Yeah.
character, you
Yeah.
could have gone, well, we'll
We
go to the
didn't.
fixer straight away. you know
Yeah.
um, I kind of knew that you weren't that type of group, which is why the Big Cheese was there as someone the characters should kind of know as an armorer,
Yes. Yeah.
um, to basically put you on the right thing. So there was those things, but what I also do is keep two encounters in my back pocket as well. So I have basically
Okay.
eight, and I don't like the term random encounters. Um, if you're playing a dungeon bass, it's fun to roll some dice and oh wow,
Yeah.
a troll turns up and it's like yeah okay, let's fight the troll. But I think it's important to have encounters that are not associated with the main story but are connected to the players.
Yes.
So for
Yeah.
me, a random encounter would be for your character in Feng Shui, someone that supplies your beer sort of contacts you and says,
Yeah.
"Ah, we're out of beer. Someone's come and attacked the
Yeah.
brewery or whatever,"
Yeah.
and it's a filler because oh wow,
Yeah.
the combats have gone really smooth, really fast. We are we need to fill time, so I need something in my back pocket that is going to resonate with the player characters, but will also uh, pad it out. And it's not even padding because
Yeah.
it's interesting for the characters really.
So
Um,
how do you with sort of player development then, where players have specific things that they want to get on and do,
mhm.
or plot points that come out about player that you think that's something I'm going to have to remember for
Yeah,
later because that's really interesting.
yeah, no,
Is that
absolutely.
something you write down
Yeah,
in the
no.
moment, or is it?
Yeah, absolutely. The only notes that I take are the notes. Players sometimes go where you didn't expect them to go, whether
Yeah.
that's a random tavern. And I've got a notation system for, um, you know, um, they've gone to this tavern now. This tavern didn't actually exist in any of the notes I had
Yeah.
before. Um, the NPCs that populate that tavern, if you sort of look back to other Welcomer tables, that player list that I mentioned,
Yeah.
really easy, just some random names, boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
sorted.
Yeah.
Um, but what is also important as well, something that we raised on a previous welcome to table, is listening to the players. And sometimes the players come up with some awesome ideas, and
Yeah.
it's not stealing their ideas. It's cooperative storytelling, and you kind of go, fantastic, I really like
That's
that.
much better
That's
than what I had.
strong idea. Let us go with that. And obviously, because it's a player's idea, you then need to make notes of that, and then
Yeah.
decide how you're going to let that sort of play out. So I'm always listening. And I think
You're
that's
always
I'm
listening.
always listening. I think it's the important thing as a GM to be doing that, and
Yeah.
relevant things that you were unaware of. They bring some information about their backstory that they perhaps just created, or places they want to visit. And I do this quite a lot in my games as well. I ask leading questions like, okay, so you're visiting your parents for the first time. You tell me about them. Where do you
Yeah,
live? You describe your house.
yeah,
And then it sort of gives player agency, and the player, because they're creating it, feels far more emotionally attached. But then I have to rapidly take notes down about that, because
yeah,
suddenly they're creating it, I'm taking the notes, and we've kind of almost swapped places. They've become kind of like the storyteller, and I've
yeah.
become the listener, sort of
I
thing,
mean,
really.
we've done that in the vampire game
Yeah,
with the bar
yeah,
that Elsa's character has and kind of the decor of the bar and the theatre next door that my character's got.
yeah.
It's very much been designed by ourselves, and we sort of said this is the type of establishment we've bought because it was what we wanted.
Yeah. No, I think it's much better because it means the players get really, really attached to it. So when you blow them up and take them away from the players, you get real tears, and that's what I
Hey,
that's what I
hey,
I live off, the tears.
oh,
I'm only joking, as you know. Um,
you
no,
better
they
be.
get attached. They get attached to them. It's kind of
Yeah,
their thing, and it's exciting, and it's a cooperative
it's world
environment to work
buy-in.
in. Yeah.
Yeah,
That cooperative storytelling and world building is what makes it very, very fun, and it keeps me on my
and
toes. It
yeah,
makes it interesting for me as well. I'm not just. It's okay. I can see you watching the time. Uh,
yeah. Sorry.
4 minutes to go. I'm on it. Don't worry. I'm
I
on
was
it.
going to say though, to give you to go back to an earlier point, what you
Yeah,
said about random encounters. Um, I and this is probably a D and D opinion or a role playing opinion that I probably isn't shared by a lot of people. I don't like dungeon crawls.
mm.
I don't like running them. I don't like doing them.
It's each to their own, to the table.
Yeah.
It's a different experience, and it's not for everybody.
No, I have a
Um,
very short attention span,
yeah,
and I find with dungeon crawl, it's I like them when they're guised in social,
yeah.
when there's no map,
Hmm.
when effectively you realize you've done a dungeon crawl, but it's a social dungeon crawl. I
Yeah,
don't mind that. It's just move to this square, check for traps. Move to this square, check for traps. I love
it's
a map for reference, but I find it very hard to run a dungeon crawl and be in a dungeon crawl.
yeah. It's very much each to their own, and probably a big subject for another time,
Very much so.
because we're kind of leaning into that old school Renaissance type of game there, where Mork or Merc Borg has kind of spawned from.
Yeah,
But but as promised to you, you've got things to do. We've got
I have
things
to
to
go to
do.
the gym.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, the 6 o'clock club is scheduled to be 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So we're not cutting it particularly short tonight. I want to say a big thank you to everybody in chat. A big thank you to Kristian for joining me again. They're genuinely going to miss our conversations tomorrow and
You'll
Friday, but
you'll have
hopefully,
someone else though.
yeah, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. Tomorrow night, as I say, we have Matt joining us, co-writer for some of the published materials that we're looking at doing. So please tune in tomorrow for that. In the meantime, thank you very much. Please like and subscribe if you can. It's really going to help us. And look after yourselves and everybody else. Be nice to each other. Take care, everybody. Catch you all later. See
Bye
you. Bye
everyone.
bye.
Bye.